Alexander Stewart, Duke of Albany, was the second surviving son of King James II of Scotland and his wife, Mary of Gueldres. Created Duke of Albany before 1458, Alexander also received the earldom of March, and lordships of Annandale and the Isle of Man. In 1460 he travelled to the continent, and to Gueldres, the land of his maternal family. On his return in 1464 he was captured by the English. He was soon released, and as he matured began to take part in the government and defence of Scotland, being appointed in quick succession Lord High Admiral of Scotland and Warden of the Marches. Some of his actions on the marches aroused suspicion, suggesting sharp practice and a policy of border violence and truce-breaking against England that contravened James III's 1474 marriage alliance. Struggle with brother. In 1479, the seat of Albany's earldom of March was seized, although accounts of his imprisonment in Edinburgh Castle at this time appear to be misdated. Albany fled by sea to Paris, where in September 1479 was welcomed by King Louis XI, and received royal favour by his marriage to Anne de la Tour. Louis, however, would not assist him to attack his brother the king, and crossing to England he made a treaty with King Edward IV at Fotheringhay in June 1482. By the Treaty of Fotheringhay, Albany promised to hold Scotland under English suzerainty in return for Edward's assistance and to deliver the southern shires into English possession. With the Duke of Gloucester, afterwards King Richard III, he marched at the head of one of the largest English armies to be assembled after the Wars of Independence, 20,000 men, to Berwick, which was seized, and then, with a smaller force, to Edinburgh. Meanwhile James III was seized at Lordbridge as he marched to face the invasion, and was imprisoned in Edinburgh Castle. It has been suggested that there was a conspiracy between Albany and a group of magnates who had been excluded from power in the 1470s, including the King's Stewart half-uncles, the Earls of Athol, Buchan and the Bishop-elect of Moray. Although evidence is limited, Gloucester, meanwhile, seems to have been satisfied with the seizure of Berwick, and quit Edinburgh on the 11th of August. At that point the Lords in Edinburgh Castle emerged and began working with Albany to form a new government. By early October Albany was acting Lieutenant General of the realm, had taken the earldom of March, and had reacquired his former lands and offices. Albany's adoption of the earldom of Mar seems to have angered George Gordon, 2nd Earl of Huntly, one of the most powerful magnates in the country, who had designs on the earldom himself and came to the Parliament of December 1482, at which Albany had hoped to have his lieutenant generalship confirmed. The king meanwhile managed to persuade a number of the Lords to return to loyalty to him, most notably John Stewart, Lord Darnley, Keeper of Edinburgh Castle, Athol and the Bishop of Dunkeld. Subsequently the Parliament passed a number of mutually contradictory acts, and Albany fled to Dunbar between Christmas and the New Year. On the 2nd of January 1483 Albany made an abortive second attempt to seize the king. Edward IV promised the Duke further aid on the 11th of February, and on the 19th of March he managed to force the king into a humiliating indenture. With the death of Edward IV on the 9th of April 1483 Albany lost his main source of power, and shortly thereafter he fled south, letting an English garrison into Dunbar Castle as he went. Last years and death. In July 1484, Albany once again invaded Scotland, this time with a small force with the long-exiled James Douglas, 9th Earl of Douglas. The Battle of Lochmaben ensued, where the invasion was defeated. Douglas was captured, while Albany fled south again. The invasion had no support from Richard III, and failed to find any Scottish support in the former estates of Albany and Douglas. The author of Albany's most recent biography claims that there may have been a further attempt to return to Scotland in 1485. The persistent story of Albany's escape from Edinburgh Castle, usually misdated to 1479 or 1482 by chroniclers, instead is claimed to have occurred in 1485. Certainly Albany's closest ally and fellow exile James Liddale of Alcaston is found imprisoned, awaiting execution at this time, suggesting he had returned to Scotland with Albany, and a chronicle account that claims Albany killed the Laird of Maniston may be confirmed by Maniston's death before the 14th of October 1485. Albany fled for the last time, again to France, where he was killed shortly afterwards in a joust in Paris, allegedly by a splinter entering his eye. He was buried near the high altar in the Celestine Church. Family and children. Albany's first wife was Lady Catherine, daughter of William Sinclair, 3rd Earl of Orkney, who bore him 3 sons and a daughter. This marriage was dissolved in 1478, and its issue was regarded as illegitimate. The children included Alexander Stewart, who became Bishop of Moray. He left a legitimate issue, Andrew Stewart. In 1480, Albany married Anne de la Tour d'Auvergne, daughter of Bertrand Viscount of Auvergne and of Boulogne, and his wife Louise. They had a son, John, who succeeded as Duke of Albany, and married Anne's niece, also Anne de la Tour d'Auvergne. They also had a daughter, Maud Stewart, who died young. Albany reportedly had another daughter, Margaret Catherine Stewart, who was not born to either of his wives and was presumably illegitimate. She married Sir Patrick Hamilton of Kincavel. Ancestors.